Are we ready to get started? Yeah.
Commissioner Thomas indicated she would be attending virtually. I've not seen her yet, but it is 4 o'clock.
All right. Well, I'd like to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Waste Reduction District of Monroe County Board of Directors for June 13th, 2024. Mr. McGlasson, could you please call the roll?
McKim. Thomas. Piedmont Smith.
Here.
Swafford. Here. Githens. Jones.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right. So first we have the executive committee meeting minutes from April 1st. So we haven't met as a board for a couple months. So some of these dates look kind of old, but there's a reason for that. So are there any questions? This is not an item for approval. It's just FYI. Are there any questions about those executive committee minutes? All right, we'll move on to approval of the Board of Directors meeting minutes from April 11th. If somebody would like to make a motion.
I move approval. Second.
All right, any comments or questions about those minutes? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Those are approved. And we will move along to the Controller's report. Ms. Martin, welcome.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. I thought I had that done.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
If I could just note for the record that Commissioner Thomas is on Teams now and at the meeting.
Okay, very good. Welcome, Commissioner Thomas. So, Ms. Martin, if you could go ahead with the cash flows.
All right. The cash flow summary is on page 7 of your packet. The operating balance as of May 31st was $3,422,953.75.
Could you hold on just a second? Is there any way to turn up the volume? Can we turn up the volume on the Zoom? Okay. All right. Go ahead, Ms. Martin. Thank you.
Okay. The cash flow summary is on page 7 of your packet. The operating balance as of May 31st was $3,422,953.75. Closure bond debt at that same date was $10,775.20. The May 31st balance for the capital account was $45,800.82. The May 31st balance for the landfill post-closure account was $768,070.15. The individual cash flow statements for each of these are on pages 8 to 13 of your packet, and the operating fund graph is on page 10. Questions about the account balances?
Are there any questions for Ms. Martin? All right. I think we can move on to payroll and claims.
Page 14 of the packet is where we have the total for payroll and claims for approval. That was since our last meeting, so it covers the April and May claims. And that's in the amount of $424,393.04. Backup for those numbers is on pages 15 to 61. And then we had claims for approval this week, and that was sent in an email on Tuesday. Those claims were in the amount of $126,988.22. And documentation for those claims were included in that Tuesday email. That brings the total of all of the payroll and claims that we are recommending for approval to $551,381.26. And we're obviously, any questions about that, I did want to kind of mention here that we realize that these reports, some of them look a little different. We've tried our best to get reports that as closely replicate what you were used to seeing. In some instances, there are differences, and in some instances, it's been hard to get the right report to handle. We're still learning, so please bear with us about that. But if you have feedback about the reports that we are providing, please let us know. We will work with WOW to see what we can do to get those as close as we can. But some of them are going to look a little bit different. I think we're going to have to deal with a little differences. But if there's something that you're looking for that you're not seeing, please let us know, and we'll try our best to get that set up in the best way that suits the board's needs. So questions on the claims?
Are there any questions on the claims or the format changes?
No.
Okay, I do have a couple of questions that have to do with the format. So there's a new column titled LOC, which is that location, or what is that?
That is location, and that is formerly what was known as Department. So Department 1 is now Location 1, and that's admin. So that means something to us, and then it can to you as well if you know what those departments are. We can certainly provide a key for that to help. But that is the same thing as what we used to call departments, and WOW, those are called locations.
Okay. Yeah, it helps to know that, since we do have, right on the first page, we have Cintas listed like 30 times. There are different locations, I imagine, for different weeks maybe as well.
Different weeks, and those all have different individual invoice numbers, so we have to enter them individually. Otherwise, if we didn't, it's going to look kind of like that conglomeration of mess that we kind of dealt with one time with like German American, the visa payment and how that showed up on those reports. So I think it is easier in a lot of ways to look at it this way. Each one of them does have their own entry because they do have their own location, and those are different invoice numbers that we're dealing with for each one of those payments. So.
Okay, thank you. I think I had another question. I just need to scroll down here and find it. Sorry, there are a lot of claims this time since we didn't meet in May. One moment, please. I should just... Okay, well, I can't find it, so I'll just follow up when I figure out what that other question was.
Yeah, let me know, and we'll be happy to provide whatever information you need.
Okay, great. So is there a motion to approve the payroll and claims?
Move approval of payroll and claims. Second.
All right. Any additional questions? I didn't ask if Commissioner Thomas had any comments or questions. I assume she will speak up if she does. Nope. Okay. All right. Well, all those, do we do a roll call on this one?
We will need to do a roll call
Okay.
with Commissioner Thomas on virtual.
Okay.
Sorry.
Please go ahead, Mr. McGlasson.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you. Next, we will move on to Resolution 2024-04 to amend the district-approved vendor list. Mr. McGlasson, would you like to present this for us?
As soon as I get there.
Actually, why don't we put a motion on the table and then we can discuss it. If somebody could make the motion.
I move to approve the amended vendor list.
Second.
Thank you. That's Resolution 2024-04. Mr. McGlasson.
This Something that we do from time to time. It's a housekeeping measure to keep our approved vendor list as current as we can. As mentioned in the memo on page 62 of the packet, we have a number of additions on this one that are related to a change in the consultant we're using for the statistical analysis for our groundwater at the landfill, as well as adding a couple of vendors related to I guess some evolution in the way we handle compliance cases and working with the county attorney's office. And we've gotten into a couple of situations where we've gotten court orders that allow us to go in and bring a property into compliance and then place a lien on that property to recoup our costs down the road. So, unfortunately, these cases are much larger than we're prepared to handle with our staff and our equipment. So we've chosen to contract those out. And those are the two entities that have expressed interest in working on those projects with us. So we'd like to get them added to the vendor list to expedite those cleanup projects as they happen down the road. And then the last addition is a rainbow printing that is a new check vendor that we're using that was recommended by our new software vendor as a company that is aware of the format that their system uses and to print checks. So we just had to send them the pertinent information related to who we are and our address and bank account information, and they already had the check format ready to print up to send to us that will work with the LAO system. And then one vendor to be removed, which is the AECom, which is the former consultant that we worked with to do the statistical analysis for our groundwater.
So that'll be replaced through services by Atlas Technical?
Atlas Technological or Technical Consultants is replacing AECom. And then the others, the Sanitas Technology is actually a database software that houses the 25 plus years of groundwater data. So we had to purchase that software license in order to be able to make that data available to the new consultant. Previously AECom owned that license that was in our name. We now own that, and we're asking to put them on the vendor list because there'll be a recurring annual licensing fee for that software.
So overall, is this going to cost us more than our deal with AECom? What would it cost?
And unfortunately, Mr. Paulson's not here. I believe it is. It's not a great deal. Like $1,000 more per event from the new consultant. I think they've indicated that if currently we only have an agreement with them to do this May event we just finished and this coming November event. If we continue to move them moving forward, the hope is that price will come down because they won't have to bring themselves up to speed with all the historical data, which is what we're paying for right now.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you so much. So my question is with the vendors who are going to help with property cleanups, because those are really important things to do. I was wondering how you choose which vendor. Are you going to, for each event, offer the project and take the lesser bid, or how does that work?
We'll ask them to put quotes in, but we'll have them go
Okay.
look at the property and provide us quotes to do the cleanup.
Right. And FYI, the county has begun the process of changing the health clinic administration service to a different company. So you may be coming back.
Oh.
All right, any other questions or comments on this item? No? All right. Mr. McGlasson, could you please do a roll call vote on Resolution 2024-04?
Swafford,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, we will move on to a very important item, which is a draft request for proposals for request for proposals. Yeah. It's been a long week already, folks. Sorry about that. A draft RFP, request for proposals for recycling processing, municipal solid waste disposal, and material hauling services. Mr. McGlasson, would you like to?
Yeah, I think we talked about this at the April meeting. It's something that staff and the executive committee have been discussing since December or January for a few months. And at the April meeting, the board did indicate that they would like to go ahead and see a draft agreement before making a decision on what to do with that. So there is that agreement. As indicated in the memo, it has been reviewed by legal counsel. The executive committee also reviewed it at their most recent meeting, and I think that this is something that comes from the fact that we now have a second option in the county with Rumpke opening their new facility. The current agreement that we're operating under was entered into when there was really only one option for us in the county, and also entered into under certainly different market conditions, recycling market conditions than where we are today. Note for the record that our current agreement does call for us to be we have a fee for our recyclables, a per ton fee. I think is currently $26.40 per ton. I think there's some thought that given the fact that we separate our material at the collection sites and with where the markets are for some materials, cardboard, in particular, is it something that we should be having to pay a company to take from us? So I think those are some of the, I guess, the rationales or the thoughts behind putting this together and asking the board to make a decision on what we want to do. And you can see in the memo again, I think I've laid out, 3 different courses of action that I think are the most logical. We don't have to do anything right now. We're in the second of three renewal terms under the existing agreement. So that agreement is going to expire May 1st of 2026. If we don't do anything, and we'll have to do this in another year or so, regardless, absent the board electing to negotiate an extension to that agreement, we could issue the RFP and not take any action with regard to our current agreement. See what kind of responses we get, and decide if it makes sense to make a change and move forward. The risk there would be that the current vendor, when the RFP is issued, could give us notice that they want out of the contract, which would certainly be within their rights. And the third option would be to go ahead and decide we want to seriously consider making a change, issue the RFP, issue the notice to the current vendor, and go through the proposal process and select a new vendor, which may or may not be our current vendor. So I guess the question is, the board, what action does the board want to take with regard to this? And the second question, if we decide that we want to issue the RFP, when do we want that issued?
All right, well, let's open it up for discussion. Commissioner Thomas.
Yes, can you remind me, Tom, I couldn't find it in my quick research. I love the new website, but I'm having a hard time finding old things on it. Is there isn't it 90 days notice to opt out of the contract? Isn't that accurate?
120.
120. Good. Okay, good. I actually think that's smart, and I think that's a good thing, because it would take that long to do an RFP. So count back 120 days from the end of our expiration of our contract, and I would say that's when I would like to see us issue the RFP, but that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
All right. So the expiration, Commissioner Thomas, I want to make sure I understand. So we're in a renewal period for the contract for 1 year, which I believe expires May 1st of next year, right? So
yeah, if I could.
Yeah.
So under my interpretation of the wording of the existing contract is that during the course of any renewal term, either party may issue that 120-day notice, and it does not have to coincide with the May 1st expiration of the 1-year renewal term. But if we want to look at doing this in conjunction with the expiration of the renewal term or the contract in total, then we are looking at May 1st of 2025 or May 1st for the current term, May 1st of 2026 for the third and final renewal term in the existing contract.
So, Commissioner Thomas, when you were reflecting on counting back 120 days from the end of the current contract, what date did you have in mind?
So that would put us around February 1st. And the reason is, granted, our current provider could also issue us a notice now and say, in 120 days, we're done. But I feel like, it's a pretty high pressure situation to put staff under to do this sooner. But if staff is okay with issuing the RFP sooner rather than later and doing so this summer or into the fall, I think that would be a great thing. I think what I'm saying is, in a nutshell, I think we should do this. I think it's to benefit the taxpayers of Monroe County. I think we owe it to them. But I think I would want to know from staff what their thoughts are on scheduling this RFP.
Well, I mean, before I get into scheduling the RFP, I would just caution the board that on the the recycling and disposal cost side, we might potentially look at a positive change in the district's favor if we were to make a change. However, the hauling side is most definitely going to increase with where fuel prices are right now, and there's absolutely no way around that. And that was part of the reason, if you recall, in April we provided some data related to cost projections and estimates based on market conditions for various materials, and there are certainly scenarios within that where we could generate enough revenue based on the historical volumes that we have to potentially offset that increase in fuel cost. There are also certainly scenarios within there if the market conditions go south, where we could be in a worse situation than we are currently. Not that we're in a bad situation right now, just financially it would going to cost us a lot more money. So there is some risk there, but again, I personally do have a hang up about paying for source separated cardboard that's worth $100 a ton on the open market right now. There's two sides to that, and there's some risk involved. But be that as it may, I told the executive committee that staff would not necessarily look forward to doing an RFP process at the same time we're going through the budget process. But if that's the board's desire, we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. So.
Other thoughts on this? Mayor Thompson.
It sounds like it is undetermined whether we will save money or spend money on a new contract. And
yeah, and I see. I'm. There's no way I am going to confidently sit here and tell you that it's going to cost us more or cost us less. There's just no way to predict that. The recycling market is too volatile, too dynamic.
I guess I would lean towards this gives them an opportunity to increase prices. And if we're happy with the service and we think it's a net zero or close to net zero change, once we account for staff time and effort to prepare for an RFP, I would lean towards trying to renew the contract.
Well, I would, I guess, point out that the vendor that's currently charging us 26 something a ton for recycling, just quoted for source separated, just entered into a contract with the city for $10 a ton on commingled recycling. So a little more heartache there.
Any other comments on this or questions?
My inclination would be to wait until after budget is settled and then look at producing an RFP and just seeing what we find out and not making a strong decision yet. I also am a little bothered by paying to have things recycled that people are making money on.
Yeah, and again, that's the big heartache. But the question is, can we get enough of a better deal on the materials to offset whatever increase we're going to see in transportation? And that's what it's hard to predict or guess where that's going to come out.
How does it, I guess that I'm a little foggy on how the transportation would work with varying companies. I mean, the further they're having to haul stuff, the more expensive it would be, right?
It can be, but that is one of the benefits of the current agreement, where we got a flat hauling rate per haul, regardless of which facility it comes from. Now, whether or not that would be responses we would get back to an RFP from the current or any potential proposing vendor, there's no way to know.
So with Rumpke, since they are located here, would they would still pick up stuff from us and haul it to its final location? Or would we take it to them and?
Well, no. The RFP includes hauling the materials. We don't have the trucks or the staff to manage hauling the number of roll-off boxes we do in a given week. So.
Yeah. But then do they haul it to their facility and then from their facility to a final location?
Well, currently, Republic Services is who we currently contract with. So the materials collected, the metals that we collect go to either JB Salvage or Bloomington Iron and Metal. They go to one of the two local scrap yards, and Republic just moves that for us. We deal with the local yards on costs and rebates for those materials. The other recyclables are taken from our facilities to the Hoosier Disposal Transfer Station, and are then transported up to their sorting facility in Indianapolis. My understanding from Rumpke and going through the process of them getting approval to build their facility and touring that facility, that that facility is set up on the recycling side to receive both commingled and source separated material. And they've indicated that if they have enough volume of a specific source separated material coming in, they will bale it on site and haul it straight to the recycler from there. Other materials that are commingled or the volume's just not there will get consolidated into a larger truck and taken to their sorting facility in Cincinnati.
Thank you.
So I think something to consider, of course, well, the whole reason we're considering this is that there is another big player in the game now with Rumpke. So my hope would be that we would get through that competition, we might get a relatively good deal. Better than before, there was really another option as far as the whole contract. I think the way the RFP is written, also smaller entities and businesses could bid on part of the work. So we might, be able to piece together something that's more financially beneficial. I wanted to ask you, Mr. McGlasson, about the impacts on next year's budget. So if we wait until the fall to issue the RFP and it has significant impacts, would we just follow up with additional appropriations or possibly savings next year, or how would that work?
We would have to. I think even if the board today instructed staff to issue the RFP now, you got a 120-day window. But we've already, at the July meeting, the board will get their first draft of the 2025 budget. So we're already well under budget preparation on our end, and we don't have a choice but to budget based on what our current conditions are. And if those conditions change, then that will either result in a surplus of money or a need for additional appropriations.
Yeah, I guess I'm inclined to agree with Commissioner Jones in that I would like to issue the RFP, but it makes more sense to wait until after the staff has their busy period with the budget.
I agree.
I don't think I would wait as long as Commissioner Thomas indicated initially, but maybe we can revisit this in October, maybe. I don't know what others think. I'm the only one from the executive committee here today, so we wanted to bring it forward. I can't speak for the other two as far as any sense of urgency.
I think we could revisit this at our September meeting because the budget will be done by then. And I think that, having to go before council for an additional appropriation may be difficult, maybe time consuming, et cetera, but you don't have to go immediately at the beginning of the year because we'll have money in the budget. And so you can find an opportune time to go in and I think I like the idea of something more local and the opportunity, as Ms. Piedmont-Smith pointed out, of having some other providers maybe locally taking piecemeal portions of this. I feel like we're leaving money on the table for Monroe County taxpayers, and we could utilize those funds to do other things to reduce the waste stream in Monroe County instead.
So do we need to vote on anything at this point, or can we just kind of come to?
No, if you're not going to instruct us to do anything now, there's really nothing to vote on that can't be addressed at a future meeting. I just to cover all of my bases, I would just advise the board that unless there are any objections voiced today, now that this is publicly out there, should Republic elect to issue notice to us, I will be issuing the RFP.
That was my next question.
And do you need some kind of vote of approval, contingent approval from us to issue it at that time? Or
No, I don't believe so, because your approval or disapproval comes when we bring the proposals in, and you
Yeah.
you can say, no, we didn't approve the RFP. We're not agreeing to any contracts. But
so does anybody, having looked at the RFP, does anybody have any concerns about the actual text?
I have a question, if I might. Sorry
Yes.
to jump in. I can't get my raised hand to work. So the bulky item drop off, what is typically happening with that material? Is it sorted at a facility? How is that handled right now? Because it could be a number of things.
the bulky items. Well, I mean, as you recall, we did just change our schedule for that. It's now on a monthly rotation instead of a weekly rotation, and we have gotten a couple of invoices since that change, from Republic, and we certainly can see a decrease in the number of hauls related to bulky items. But I'm not sure what you're asking with regard to sorting of that material.
I guess my question is it always just handled as trash, or are components, is there some sort of pick through to make sure that something can be recycled?
That is done at the facility, by the operators. If, when they see
Okay.
somebody pull in with bulky items, if they notice a good amount of metal in there, they'll tell them put the metal in the scrap metal and the furniture in the bulky items.
Okay. So otherwise it is treated as garbage, as trash to go to the landfill.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That was it.
I thought we had discussed at a previous meeting, or it came up in conversation perhaps, that if they see something that is like a decent couch, that they would recommend, Restore or some other place.
Well, yeah, we recommend that at the site. We recommend when people call, where is the bulky items? We, hey, don't forget, there's Habitat Restore, Goodwill. So there's a number of entities that would gladly take usable furniture items and suggest that they investigate those before bringing it for disposal.
Great. All right. Well, if there's no concerns with the text, then I think we can just put off a decision about this until our September meeting, at least, or bring it back for discussion at that time, with the understanding that if Republic issues a 120-day notice, that we will expect Mr. McGlasson to issue the RFP.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next, we have a report from Back to Earth Composting Pilot Project. From One Sustainable Joe, welcome.
Thank you. Afternoon, board members. Joseph Winia here, the founder and CEO of One Sustainable Joe and administrator of the Back to Earth Collective Composting Pilot Program. The primary point of today's update is that since the last board meeting, there have been 2 more sites that were onboarded into the program, bringing the total up to 4. And those are the Covenanter Hill neighborhood, managed by Renaissance Rentals, which launched in April, and the Bloomington Co-housing, which also launched about a week after. So I also included in the update just some of the current year-to-date totals, because it's been about 9 months since the program is running. And you can see that we're at a little bit shy of a ton in total food waste diverted. It's actually gone up 100 pounds since providing this update. So it's at about 0.93 tons. And there are 60 total participating households, which represents 85 total participating individuals. So if you're interested, there are additional details as noted on the measuring impact page of the website, and you can see breakdowns by individual sites and see how those compare over time. So that was primarily what I wanted to present, and also provide an opportunity for questions if there are any.
Thank you, Mr. Winia. Are there any questions from board members?
I just want to say that this is a very exciting project, and it sounds like it's really kind of taking off. So, and it'll be a good example for those of us who are looking at how to reduce organic waste in our waste stream.
Good, thank you. That's what I
Yeah.
hope to provide.
I agree. Do you have other leads of other multifamily buildings that might be interested in participating?
So 3 actually of the 4 participating sites have multiple properties, and all 3 of them have expressed interest in potentially doing it at other of their own properties. And at least 2 of them are just observing how the process is going at the first site before moving forward with plans for second sites. So I haven't been proactively seeking out additional sites just yet, and think that those will provide a number of additional opportunities as well.
Great. And what was the timeline of our funding agreement with One Sustainable Joe?
So the original sort of end of onboarding was at the beginning of May. So at least in terms of producing the final report and the, I guess I'll add that each of the sites has a 12-month partner period that goes along with it. So in terms of producing that final report, that will be produced in less than, not 10 months, I would say, since the, I guess, start of May was the end of the sort of open window for onboarding and the start of the reporting process. But there are no hard limits on when sites can join if they choose to join after that point, if that makes sense.
I remember initially we were hoping for 6 sites.
Correct.
But that wasn't tied to the payment of the grant, or was it?
No, there was no requirement
Okay.
to get a specific number of properties involved.
The funding was designed to be able to support up to 6 sites based on the estimates. And so I think that is still possible, and 2 additional sites could still be added in the near term under the funding and fit in the scope of the grant, but their partner period would go kind of beyond when the final report will be covering. So that was the goal of having that onboarding cutoff timeline, and that's really what the impact of it will be.
So how are we doing on the grant funding? Has One Sustainable Joe drawn down all those grant funds, or is that still?
Well, the agreement called for an initial payment to kickstart
Yeah.
the project, about $14,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we did January or February. We did make a required midpoint payment earlier this year, I believe, and I forget the amount off the top of my head, but that still leaves 5, 6, maybe 7,000 of the approved funding still available due to One Sustainable Joe to wrap the project up.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's based on progress reports submitted or receipts, or?
Yep, it's being invoiced after expenses are incurred. So basically there are reimbursement periods for the program. So the last one will be at the end point of the timeline of the project to cover all of the costs incurred previously. So it's only billed on a as used basis.
Okay. So probably the final report will come in a couple months.
Probably near the end of this year.
Oh, okay. So we'll have a good idea of how the follow-ups went as well.
Correct.
Yeah. Great. And wean people off of your guiding hand
Correct.
for those sites.
That will be perhaps the most informative part of the process.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Were you also going to speak to the CAC update?
I will actually, yes. Also,
While you're up there?
Yep, as a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee, just a quick touch on the monthly activity report. It's actually been a couple of months since the board didn't meet in the last month. And actually, we didn't either on our April meeting. But on our last meeting, we made an initial review of the CAC proposed budget, which will be finalized at our next meeting next week for submission to the board. And then we also discussed the possibility of food waste collection at the Lotus Fest by Garden Quest, which is an organization that our current chair, Matt Austin, is associated with. And then we also looked to schedule a time for our usually annual Adopt a Road cleanup, which we haven't settled on yet, but it's in process. So that's what the CAC has been up to.
Great. Are there any questions from the CAC report? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Winia.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
So we'll move on to department reports. Mr. McGlasson.
Just I guess outside of the report, something that actually just came up on the past couple of days that I want to bring to everybody's, to the public's attention as well, is to watch our social media pages over the next couple of days. There should Ms. Pokral is putting a post together. We've been contacted by an organization called Indiana Food Vision, and they've put a survey out to ask Indiana residents, about concerns they have regarding food accessibility, food waste, healthy choices, people's accessibility, but I think they're looking for some important information for the state to take into account. I think the ultimate goal is for the state to develop a food vision policy. I think that's the ultimate goal of this. So watch our watch our social media pages. So we'll get a link to that survey put up there here in the next couple of days, and we'll certainly encourage people to fill that survey out. I think that's leading to hopefully some important decisions at the state level down the road. So. And then beyond that, we'll again be present at the fair this year, again sharing a booth with Monroe County Stormwater. The Organic Waste Task Force is continuing to meet on about a monthly basis. And also would note that Hopi Stossberg from the City Council has now joined that task force. We're excited for her input and enthusiasm for the topic. Right now, the task force right now is really, and I may have mentioned this at the April meeting, that Porter County Waste and Recycling District has a pilot program working where they're in essence getting volunteers to do composting on their property and let other people bring food waste into them. They're intentionally keeping the size of these composting piles below the state threshold so that they're not subject to any of the registration or permitting requirements at the state level. So we've really looked at that program and seeing how we might do something similar to that down in Monroe County, while at the same time keeping our eye on the big picture, which is ultimately how do we on a large scale do food waste diversion in this county. Mr. Long and I, on May 1st, with the Indiana Household Hazardous Waste Task Force, did get an opportunity to visit the Brightmark Plastic Recycling Facility up in Ashley, Indiana. That's a drive. It was a long day, but that facility has came online, I think, about 2 years ago. But they had some issues with their process, and what they do is they break plastic down to its petroleum base, and wind up with I believe a low-grade diesel fuel and a wax byproduct that come out of their process. But they've just gotten to the point where they're comfortable that they have the kinks worked out, and they're ready to bring in all the material that they can find at this point. So there's a lot of promise with that facility. Unfortunately, transportation, getting the material up there is going to be an obstacle. But it was a neat facility, and we're happy to have had the opportunity to go look at that. And hopefully sometime down the road, that's a facility we could utilize for our plastics. But we'll see what happens. The Circular Indiana Roundtable that we talked about in March and April on May the 14th did happen. Had about 20 to 22 people in attendance there. I think there was some good discussion. Unfortunately, I had to leave early to come to the county council meeting for the landfill financial assurance hearing, but But it was a nice event, and I thought we had some good attendees, and for the part that I was there, some really good discussions about the circular economy and the role in that local entities and government agencies might play in promoting that and helping to grow that in Indiana. So. Elisa Polkral did do an Earth Steward home composting website this past Saturday. I think she had 10 or 11 attendees, most of which signed up during the tree seedling giveaway we did for Earth Day and Arbor Day. But she said she was real pleased with the attendance, and the event itself and the attendees. She thought it was a really good event. So beyond that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. McGlasson on the administration report? I have a question about Brightmark. Do they only take sort of separated, the different types of plastic in a separated manner, or do they take all plastics together?
They take it all, including straws, fast food cup lids, plastic wrap baggies.
So including bags.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's pretty cool. All right. Well, let's move on to the report from Joey Long, Recycling, Reuse, and Hazardous Materials, and the Rural Recycling Centers.
All right. Hi, everyone. I will start with the recycling and reuse. We have a Green Business Network client reach out, talk to us about shrink wrap and clear plastic film. They have the capabilities to bale it. They have enough of it that we can pick up. So I've reached out to Quincy Recycling, and they are going to recycle it for us. We've done some test shipments, and I got an email back maybe an hour ago. So far, our shipments are going great, and we can expand on that a little bit more. So I'm waiting to hear how much we can expand, but there is a need from businesses that does shrink wrap and film, because everything, pallets come in wrapped with all that stuff. So they will take clear plastic from us, and we will continue to do test shipments and hopefully expand this. The materials from the arts, we had a donation of well over 1,000 egg cartons. We don't really have the storage for that, but we wanted to help, so we put some feelers out. Melissa Stewart reached out from Harrisburg Food Pantry, Smithville Farmers Market, said that she would be glad to come pick them up and get them in the hands of other food pantries and distribute them. We have many volunteers like that reach out and ask us for help, and we do what we can to get them the material, and they take them around to different places. One of the other things in materials for the arts is Nate Crum is a teacher at Lighthouse Christian Academy. He comes in and gets mat board, and he looks for different ways to teach students to do art and other ideas, and they've been doing spray paint art. The stuff is pretty neat. They brought in a sample and showed us what students done, and the kids really enjoyed it. So it reuses some of the stuff that was going to be recycled and teaches kids of how to look for other ways to do stuff. So we're really happy to work with them on that. The hazardous materials, Kayla Strand and I have worked together on setting up TerraCycle. We're becoming a drop-off partner. We can now recycle Gillette razors and any other razor. As far as that, doesn't have to be Gillette, but it's through the Gillette program. And Colgate toothpaste containers and toothbrushes. Again, does not have to be Colgate, but they're the ones that's doing the recycling on that. So we are starting that program also for both those through our hazardous materials. Same thing with the hazardous materials. They worked with Hands, City of Bloomington, and we completed the first of 2 neighborhood cleanups. A little less than 100 houses. Everything went great. Hand was very good to work with as usual. They do a great job, and the guys enjoy working with them all the time. They make it so easy on us. The rural recycling centers, everything's operating as normal. We do have planned parking lot maintenance. It's a every year thing that we do because of the gravel, the big heavy boxes, the trucks are moving in and out. We just have to do some maintenance on those. That's everything I have. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Are there any questions on that report? I don't see any. Well, thank you very much. We will move on to the report on the landfill and environmental compliance. Mr. McGlasson, are you filling in today?
Mr. Paulson is out today, so but did highlight a few things that you can see in this report. They completed the May groundwater sampling event as we discussed earlier with the resolution on the vendor list. We have a new consultant that we're working with on statistical analysis. They do have all of the lab data at this point. And the last report I got from Mr. Paulson was that they said everything looked good. They got all the historical data and they didn't see a problem with getting the report completed. So everything looks good there. And then he also has a note in there. Item did inspect our groundwater and methane monitoring probes recently. We actually just got the inspection report back on that today, and they had no problems with groundwater wells. They said everything looked good. The methane probes, we had one probe that has a dent in the casing because the mower hit it a year or so ago, and they didn't say it needed to be repaired or replaced, but they said keep an eye on it and make sure it doesn't impact our ability to measure the gas coming out of that probe. So. And he's got, as always, the compliance and adopter road data in there for you. And with that, I would do my best to answer any questions.
Any questions on the landfill and environmental compliance report?
Wasn't there going to be a big tree planting? Has that happened?
Yes, it did. I didn't think about that. We have some. We put a couple of Facebook posts up about it, and it was an all-day event. But they got almost 9,000 trees planted in the one day. Again, big thanks to Edward Holman and the Purdue Extension Services. They're the ones that got the tree planter for us. And Edward, in fact, was out there this past weekend, I think he said, and looked at them all. He said everything looked good, and he thinks we'll have a pretty good success rate with those trees. So.
Hopefully, we'll get a bit of rain before too long. It should help them.
Excellent. Glad to hear it was successful. I know we were a little worried about the weather on the scheduled date.
Yeah.
All right. If there are no more other questions on that, we will move to public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to offer any comments to the board at this time?
Seeing anything?
Doesn't look like it. All right. Are there any comments from directors? Nope. All right. Well, thank you all for your time today, and we'll see you next month.